No, what do they do for strength and conditioning?
A lot of their stuff is just they do a lot of normal stuff after practice that like burnouts with. We'll hold a plank, heavy plank after we just grappled, sparred, and everything. We'll stay on our hands. We have to stay there for 2 minutes, 3 minutes until like Habib sees you like breaking, and then all right, push-ups, then jump squats, then lunges, and I think it's those little burnouts after practice when you're tired and your arms are dead that levels you up with strength. But they also do have a strength coach that they would do twice or 3 times a week while we were in Abu Dhabi. That he would put them more through like high reps for time. So they'll go from like doing shoulder presses to punching the bag, doing box jumps to like kicking the bag, little things like that. That I think just like build strength and cardio at the same time.
When you are in Chicago, do you have like a regular strength and conditioning coach that you work with?
Yeah, I got a strength coach. Shout out to Matt Murphy. We do like more like heavy lifting stuff. So it's,
Really?
so for like certain bodies. So we do deadlifts. I'm going heavy on deadlifts. We go squats. I'm going heavy on squats. We go bench press, and then all the other stuff is more like cosmetic. But like the bases,
Trying to look good?
Not cosmetic, but like now we're gonna do these little
There it is.
rolls
You're
or something like
deadlifts,
that. Yeah,
and then farmer walks.
yeah, farmer walks.
So when you're doing this stuff, like when you're saying you're doing heavy, like how heavy are you going? Are you doing a lot of like reps for strength or for conditioning, or is most of the shit you're doing heavy stuff?
So out of camp, I'm doing more heavy. So right now it's just like a strength building phase, and then once it gets into camp mode, then it's more for reps. So like right now it's heavy with low reps. So if I'm benching, it's maybe 250 for like 4 or 5 reps, but they're like cluster sets where I'm putting it back on, then I bring it back down, then I explode back up with it. And then with squats, it's sitting down on a chair and then exploding up, sitting down on a chair and then exploding up with it. But it's heavier, but it's just lighter reps. And then when it gets closer to the fight, he changes it up to like higher rep stuff for the conditioning aspect of it.
Are you trying to put weight on with this heavy weight, or are you just trying to maintain your strength?
I'm just trying to build more strength and explosiveness. So I want to get stronger, especially once you're in the next guy, whoever my next opponent would be. I figured it would be a stronger guy, heavy grappler. So I figured I would need the strength. And I'm not the biggest welterweight, so I want to make up for it with strength and explosiveness like that. And I think when people look at me, they don't think that I'm strong, but when they feel me inside the cage, then I feel like it's a lot of them guys get like their eyes open, like, oh, he's a lot stronger than I thought.
Yeah, there's certain dudes that are just strong as shit and they don't look like it.
Yeah.
But you look strong. But there's certain dudes, it's strength is like Ben Askren.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
like certain strength. Like how the fuck is that guy? Like when you'd watch him fight in Bellator when he was in his prime, when like he was ragdolling like really high level fighters, and you're like, what is going on here? I know it's technique, but that motherfucker seems strong as shit.
I used to trade with him when I would go down to Rufusport, and I would like drive down there once a week. It's like 2 hours away from Chicago, but I would go in there and I would train with him, and I'm like, we're sparring with big gloves on, and you know he was the best striker, so I'm feeling like, oh, I'm lighting him up. But once he grabs a hold of you, it's like he takes you down and you cannot move once you're on bottom. And it's with big gloves on, and like it's really hard to grapple and hold people down with big gloves on. But like, so after that, every time I would go with him, I was like, I cannot let him grab his hands together. If he locks his hands together, I'm going down. And that was when he was still in Bellator. And like you said, people don't realize how good he was back then. When he came to the UFC, it was a different version of himself.
Yeah, he was already worn out by the time he got to the UFC. He already needed a hip replacement. You know, it's like, unfortunately, we didn't get him in his prime. He was in his prime when he was in Bellator. Even before he went to ONE FC, you know, ONE FC didn't even really get him in his prime. Bellator had him in his prime. And if you watch some of those fights, they're very impressive. But Bellator didn't like it. They thought that style was boring. I'm like, you got a dude who could do whatever the fuck he wants to people. What he did to Koreshkov, I mean, like, my God.
And Koreshkov's still killing it right now. And that was when he was in his prime, younger version of himself. And to have Ben just maul you and take you down at will. Yep. It's like, I tell people, it's harder to beat somebody for 5 rounds than it is to finish him in the first round. It's like, if I could beat you, dominate you for 25 straight minutes, that's a harder task than me going
Yeah.
out there and finishing you in 1 minute, one kick. That's it. Like those guys get all the credit, but it's like the guys like Ben. Those are the ones that are having to push through for those full 25 minutes, dominating, knowing that all it takes is one punch or one kick, and they avoided all of that. Got to be a world champion at ONE FC, at
Yeah.
Bellator, and he just doesn't get the credit. I was like, people don't make sense.
Well, it's interesting to watch someone who's like a real specialist. And Ben in his prime was a real specialist, where he really wasn't a good striker. He really didn't submit guys. But man, if you got a hold of you, you are gonna get wrestle fucked.